Conversations with Elders, hosted by yours truly, Louis-Virie Blanche, welcoming you to Glastonbury Radio 432, where we will be TED Talking in tongues with the elders of all ages, all generations, all races, cultures, and creeds. All gender, religious, or political preferences will be honored and encouraged on Glastonbury Radio 432, Conversations with Elders, where it is our treasured pleasure to roll out the red carpet of golden liquid love light to you in honor of the Queendom Come, soul dancing free to life's heartbeat drum, in honor of mother, daughter, sister, lover, priestess, goddess, friend, sharing the blessings of love's perfect stranger, Deja Vu, welcoming you to Glastonbury Radio 432.
It's too cosmic, much too cosmic for me. Much too cosmic.
Aloha, hola, aho, hello. This is Louis-Virie Blanche, and you are tuned in to Conversations with Elders, and you have the honor and privilege of hearing our Phi brother, Dr. Mosen, with us once again.
Yep. But thank you for having me again.
Hi, Phi. And we are talking about agriculture today.
Agritecture.
Agritecture.
The architecture
Not
of
architecture, but
agriculture.
agritecture.
The
Architecture of cultured gardening.
Agriculture. The architecture of agriculture. Yeah. How do we, architecture, basically the word architecture means organizing components. Organizing the components, it becomes architecture. Now we are organizing the component of agriculture.
And we've been saying that one of the most important components of agriculture is our topsoil.
Yes, yes. So basically, now we're looking at the topsoil, we're looking at the energy, let's say synergy, that plant can collect from the earth. We have Schumann resonance, we have a sky radiation. So therefore, we don't want to use any metal.
Oh.
Yeah, like metals borders or metal screens and all that stuff, because those are all Faraday cage.
No rebar allowed.
Yes, but in agriculture, we don't have any rebars, but sometimes you have these metal fences, or metal stuff, yeah. So what happens, we want to, soil can easily collect its field, which is that field of synergy, just like our body. The plants also have aura, so their aura become more magnified. So as I mentioned to you with the PAPIMI equipment, when we magnetize the soil, or we magnetize the seeds, and then magnetize the water, those was 4 different experiments that we did back in the early 80s. All of a sudden, the plant grows more. So one is in this component of architecture, we are trying to organize magnetized, synergized water that we give to the plant. How do we synergize the soil so it had more magneticity? And then, also the water that we give, how do we magnetize the water? So certain shapes, let's say like Chinese agriculture, they follow the ley lines of the soil, and that's where they put the trees. Here we do it exactly.
Lines.
Yeah.
So they're following the magnetic lines of the earth.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, it goes back to, again, conveniences.
Most of them are fatal.
Yeah, so it's more convenient to have a straight line. But what happens, some of these farms, as you see on this picture here, these took maybe a few generations. All of a sudden, they modified it, they tweaked it, and generation after generation, this farm all of a sudden was architected.
It looks as if it's radiating energy.
Yeah, you see, actually, it feels good.
Yes.
Yeah, so the plants also, like Damenhur has shown, the plants where, and also Cleve Backster, American researcher, Cleve Backster, and when the plants are happy, they express their vibration. And these two institutes, they were able to record that vibration. For example, when the plants are happy, all of a sudden their vibration, the pitch and the rhythm is nicer. The pitch are higher. That means, they're singing with a louder voice. And Cleve Backster, from his experiment with plants, he developed and invented lie detector. Because when you are next to a plant, if I don't tell the truth, the plant detects it and you can monitor it. So
the plant repels from the lies and is attracted to the truth, or how does that work?
Yeah, because the plants, they stand for truth. Everything in creation understands the truth and reveals the truth. That's why you say, tell the truth, and you never have to worry about your memory. Because memories are,
remember all those lies you told.
Yeah, because memories are all facts, whether I make the facts or it's fabricated facts, and it's stored in the brain. But usually truth is empirical evidence and available equally to all people. That's why the plants are under that principle.
But you mentioned a few things. The empirical observation is really abundant now. It's very much easier for humanity to see that something is out of harmony.
Yes.
And we're finding out that it is our topsoil that's been depleted of all the sustenance that nature intends for it to have.
Exactly, because what has happened, it generally, the concept of entropy with soil, the same thing, entropy has gone so much, our field is not healthy. So therefore we have pandemics. The field around the soil, the field is not very cultivating. It's not very healthy. So that's why the soil doesn't feel very good. Because extreme amount of entropy in environment. Entropy is not assimilative. Nature, by creation, me, you, and the plants, they need things to be, in order to be healthy, it has to be assimilative.
To assimilate, not to accumulate.
Yes. Oscillation is very assimilative. So we have created this, all of our technology and everything is based on oscillation. So we have created this sedacious comfort.
Surrounded ourselves with fatal convenience.
Oscillation, yeah. So therefore, it's very exigence. There's exigency. That means immediate necessity, exigency, immediate necessity for paradigm shift to become centropical, so the plants will feel better. So that's why when in my experiment back in 80s, when we magnetized the seeds, they sprouted much faster. When we magnetized the water that we gave to the plants, their growth was increased versus the one that was not magnetized.
And then you magnetize the soil.
Yeah, if you magnetize the soil, and then one of the ways to magnetize the soil is to put paramagnetic material or donor material. That's why if you look at the table of galvanic index, the galvanic index means all the metals and everything in the order that upper metals donates electron to the lower, to the lower, to the lower. That's why we have noble metals like gold, platinum, palladium, and all that at the very top, because they are donor to the lower metals. Now, above all the metals, we have what? Carbon. Carbon is donor to all metals and everything in creation. That's why when we say organic, means carbon based.
Oh, not silicon based, carbon based.
Yeah. So everything, if you notice in creation is carbon centered. Center of the molecule is carbon. So these are the architecture of the agriculture, the organization of components of agriculture.
And what is it that makes biochar different and unique?
Well, biochar, first of all, if it's anaerobic biochar, it's much more stronger than aerobic biochar. That means, from the wood, and biological product, we produce charcoal. Now, charcoal, again, carbon is constituent of charcoal, so therefore it's donor. So it's donates energy to every other component or substance in the soil. So we have a donor. So when something is donor, that means you have a great field that it's giving synergy.
And it's interesting to note that carbon, the structure has a certain pattern to it. There's a hexagon arrangement to carbon atoms.
Yes. And it's very similar to also water has hexagonal, six-sided, the structure of the water. So that's why carbon and water, they marry very easily, because they are very symbiotic, and also very they have synchronicity in terms of geometrical shape.
And in the work, in our understanding, this ushering in this new paradigm, we need to take into consideration how shape, form, dimension, the principles we've talked about, rotation, vortation, and peristalsis,
Yes.
Understanding certain principles, that there's a pulse to the
Yes.
electromagnetic field and flow of
Yes.
life
Yes,
that we
yes.
must be in harmony with in order to live. As
Yes.
we've said over and over, we must surrender
Yeah.
in submission to serving Creator in all creation. And we
Yeah.
do that best by understanding nature's cosmology.
Yeah, and that service is service back to us. It's like
Oh.
the seed, we get one wheat, we get 70, one corn, we get 700. And one grain of pomegranate, you get 7,000 seeds.
Oh. We're going to eat a lot of pomegranates in our lives.
Well, I mean, there's a multiplying index, for different plants. Some of them, let's say even apple, you put one apple seed, all of a sudden you get many apples with many apples seeds. So that's the giving nature of creation.
Well, show us. You have your biochar system there still?
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah, you have a device there that produces biochar.
This is just the base of it, yeah.
Yes.
See, what happened, there is a little here, this is going to be closed. So little oxygen is given to this, let's say, hibachi. It's very similar to hibachi. You can maybe, if people don't want to spend money to buy one like this, or big one like $1 million, what they can do, they can use their own hibachi. If you look at the top of the hibachi, there's 4 holes. If you give little air to that fire, it burns slowly. It burns. If you really open the top of your hibachi, all of a sudden, there's a lot of flame. But if you put that and close the top of it a little bit, then you get little oxygen going in there. So that's the more economical way for somebody at home, to make that.
And so the procedure would be one of individual families being able to produce their own biochar.
Yeah, like I've been doing, I have been making put all on all my plants and planters, and my son puts it in there. So we just make it here, and we put it in our garden.
Well, show us the pictures of your children and that one little cup growing this gigantic plant.
Oh yeah, this one here was in my office actually in Santa Cruz. You notice there's one tiny little cup. You see the cup here I'm
Yes.
pointing to, and this is a cup, and then this plant out of that cup, usually this is grasshopper, about 10, 12 inches tall. But when we put that, the length of this, I have it here somewhere, it went all of a sudden to 10 feet, way over my head. You see what I have pointing?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the other research work you've done with biochar increases the yield how many times over?
Well, I mean, for example, this one here, this is my, I think it was 11, 12 months old son, that's why here, there's a plant here, which is potato here, which was producing 7 pounds. And here we produced about 70, 80 pounds.
So the potato plant on the outside produced 7 pounds.
Yeah, and then, you multiply about 10, 12 times more production as you do. And this is another picture with, you see, this is plants, you see it right here,
Yes.
right next to this, and these are all potatoes, the potatoes here. You see it in this garden here, it's all potato plants. You notice the size of these?
Yes.
And the size of this. And you see how bushy this is?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 tire rings, 3 tires, and the potato plant is planted in the middle of that area with biochar.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, do you sometimes add a little lime to it?
Well, sometimes, the golf ball size of lime mixed with that. There's many other things we can do. These are donor something, lime is very paramagnetic. That means it allows magnetism to flow inside the soil. It's paramagnetic. If I put, let's say, granite stone, it's exactly opposite.
So the choice of materials, dimensions, proportions, and we've talked earlier about how, from a Chinese perspective, they honor the electromagnetic, the lines of Mother Nature, of Mother Earth.
The ley lines, yeah.
The ley lines.
Yeah.
So we must honor our Mother Earth. She's trying to show us something, isn't she?
Yes, and it's not rocket fuel science, But the thing is, we have created a cultivation, cultivization instead of civilization, that wherever the entropy is higher, I make more money.
Because entropy is greater and greater disorder.
Yeah.
So if you're in the business of cleaning up disorder, you want people to make more and more so you can make more profit.
Yeah. So see, one of the things, this is in economic issues, that we have to talk sometime. Entropy causes centralization. Because why? Entropical energy sources are centralized energy sources like oil, nuclear. All the synergetic that produces centropy are not centralized, just like sun, earth, energy, wind, and all that is not centralized with me. It's decentralized and diversified. Look at the word diversification again. All those synergetic sources are diversified. I cannot centralize it.
And there's many variables in nature.
Yeah, but if it's oil, gas, or let's say coal or nuclear, I can centralize it because those are centralized energy sources versus decentralized synergy sources.
And those centralized sources, they have to do with input and output.
Yes.
Not field and flow.
Exactly.
And they also don't have the beauty of cause and effect because they're action reaction based.
Yes.
So
You see-
this new paradigm shift is really wanting us to reacquaint ourselves with the biometry of life.
Yeah. Field and flow has vitality. Your vitality, my vitality is based on my field and flow, magneticity field and flow that I around me or around you.
And we've devitalized ourselves and our environment.
Yeah, yeah. So what happened is the same thing with the soil. The soil, when we are creating a field which has a very good flow, then the same thing with our body, same thing with the soil. The life of the soil is more productive.
And when you started this process working with soil, you were talking about what, 40 years ago?
Well, this was about 40 years ago. And then, what happens, is we practiced in our backyard in San Antonio when my kids were still in diaper. Yeah.
And you coined the word agritecture.
Agritecture, yeah. It means architecture of agriculture.
And you also have a word, soul agritecture.
We have solar agritecture, means solar agriculture architecture, because we need diversified energy source for field. Sun is not just light; it's also the knowledge to a plant. When the solar radiation comes, it gives a knowledge to the plant to grow. It's not just the physical synergy or physical energy, it's knowledge.
It's like awakening its inner knowingness.
That's why in mystic languages, they talk about light as knowledge. The light to you, light to me, inner light.
I saw the light of day. I saw the light.
Yeah.
Am I seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? I hope so.
Yeah. Make sure it's not an upcoming train.
Could be a fatal convenience.
Yeah. So we have soilitecture, the architecture of the soil. Right? We have agritecture and we have soilitecture. Instead of architecture, we have soilitecture. The architecture of the soil, we have to respect it. I can go on. There is a lot of researchers that they say we should not even plow. I have some information I've collected, and we shouldn't plow because we destroy the residential units of these living organisms.
So they're saying plowing and tilling the soil isn't necessarily the best thing to do.
Yeah, but it's a modern practice. So if you notice, anytime oscillation is more, centralization is more. And entropy is higher, centralization of money is also more. Look at the people, without mentioning any name, that they created higher oscillatory environment and they got richer.
They might have used some calculated obsolescence in that process.
Yeah. So, but what happens, we have to go to diversified sources, diversified synergy sources. What are those? Air, water, sun, earth.
That marriage between geology and biology.
Yeah. So this way we can bring the component of the architecture of the soil, soilitecture. And we have agritecture, the architecture of agriculture. That means architecture, the word means organization of components. Composing or composition of details, composition of parts together. Bring it together, not separating it.
So our challenge right now is to be stewards or to reorganize the process and procedures inherent to the soil as nature intended it.
Yes. Now, there is a velocity of growth. I can increase that naturally, let's say with biochar. it's not I'm not really pushing the river, changing the velocity, but I accommodate better field, so it has more flow, the growth, levitation, elevation, and centropy goes higher. It produces more.
Now, you mentioned the gentleman that discovered Kirlian photography, or he discovered a way to
Light
record the
detector.
resonance of plants.
Oh, you mean light, the Cleve Backster?
Yes.
Yeah, Cleve Backster is credited with invention of light detector.
The lie detector, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And utilizing plants' response to
Yeah,
truth and falsehood was
yeah.
was the key.
Yeah, and he had these plants, that in his house, he had connected them all to monitoring to see the changes in the plants. So he was so, with these plants, that's what he used to talk to him. But with plants, he had made very friends. So they had become his friends. This friendship, he could see it in a monitor. Now, sometimes when he used to go to a business trip, let's say 1,000 miles away, the plants were not happy. Their pitch, like you have in music, you have pitch and rhythm. Their pitch, was lower. Their magnicity was lower.
They weren't singing so vibrantly.
Yeah. And then 1,000 miles ago, that he was planning to come back, the plants could detect he was coming back from 1,000 miles away.
Oh.
Isn't that something?
Now, in The Secret Life of Plants, was he mentioned in that publication?
Which one?
The Secret Life of Plants, because they did experiments with plant clippings. They communicated, they were quantumly, they were quintessentially quantum in that they were interrelated.
Yeah, I have that book, actually a few copies of it, Secret Life of Plants, Secret Life of Soil, all of those. When it comes to agriculture, there's a secrecy, but this secrecy is very evident by empirical data. It's not a secret.
The secret's hidden right out in the open.
Yeah. So we have Secret Life of Plants, Secret Life of Soil, Secret Life of Seeds. They're all books about those things. But soon as he was starting to come home, the plants from 1,000 miles away could detect he was coming home. And their vibration used to go up. And by the time, he opened the door and came, they all cheered.
Blessed be.
Now, Damenhur in Italy, they have done the same thing. They have in terms of the feelings of the plants. So the symphony of the plants is most perfected music that they were activating it down so they can hear it. And it was the most symbiotic music to the human body.
So are we serenading them, or are they serenading us?
Well, I mean, it's both ways, as
it's
you
synergy in motion.
As you talk to your plants, they talk to you, and the ears of your soul can hear it.
The same way Dr. Emoto showed how certain words have powerful vibration.
Well, you remember, he showed when the water is really content and happy, it has a hexagonal six-sided. And that water, when it comes, we had a slide here. It's a little bit off the subject, but we need sodium here to, sodium to take the water in and out of the cell. So when this vasopressin receptor, that gate for the water is called vasopressin receptor. That vasopressin receptor has to dilate to open to allow the water to go in. Now we talk about nutrients and all that, oxygen and all that separate time. But this vasopressin receptor has to dilate for the water to go in. So when it has its mind of its own, so when the water is a structure that Dr. Emoto showed, it's nicely structured, or it has the structure of love, or prayers or any of that.
Joy, happiness,
It's
yes.
so six-sided and so delightful, of like a chandelier, that this vasopressin receptor, when it sees that sign, it opens up and allows the water. And if it wasn't that six-sided, it wouldn't recognize it. It won't assimilate into the cell. So our thoughts, emotion, our verbiage, the way we talk, our tone and everything affects the assimilation of water in our cell.
And sometimes you don't have to say anything. You just walk in a room and people pick up the vibe.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the same thing with every cell. With every cell, if that water was a volumetric sized with happiness, it has that perfect structure. If I was jealous or greedy or oppressive or angry and all that, my water is all messed up. It won't assimilate into my cell.
So getting back to our love of Mother Nature, respecting Mother Nature's harmony, what are some of the key things that people need to understand when it comes to this process of rejuvenating our topsoil?
But rejuvenating our topsoil, first of all, we have the most important things is microorganism of the soil should be cultivated.
Oh.
Now, two, we have to have adequate carbon in our soil, like biochar.
And by adding a little lime to the biochar, we increase the field and flow.
A little bit more magneticity, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You notice sometimes, if you've been in Texas, you go some places, really lime rock, really hard, and plants have grown out of it.
They have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
Reaching for the sun.
Yeah. So what happens, then, the water that we are feeding them, it has to be also good, a structured water. The same thing in our body, the water has to be a structured to go in the cell. Same thing with the plants.
Now that unit that you use to make that, the biochar unit you have makes 1 pound?
It makes 1 pound at a time. But again, if people have a hibachi and just roughly they go, it may not be as efficient as this. I mean, as potent as this, but they still can produce with their hibachi, that they put their steak and all that on it. And they can do it with a little oxygen. When oxygen is little, it goes to a little oxygen starvation. It's called anaerobic. And it becomes very good biochar. So that's one way to do it at home.
Well, if people at home want to get in touch with you, what would be a good way for people if they were really interested and their hearts were saying that they want to pursue this? How should people get in touch with you?
My phone doesn't work very good around here, and I don't use cell phone. So the best way is maybe my email, biometry@gmail.com, or a Skype, which is Vicina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Biometry@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or your Skype name is?
Vicina, FPHISENA.
PHI?
SENA.
SENA.
Yeah.
All right. Because I think the world is slowly waking up to how late the hour is. The clock is about to strike 12. Midnight is upon us here, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why the nicest word that I can use for this, there's exigency. Exiguous. That means immediate necessity. For our wake up our soul to be in surrender, submission, and service.
And Bucky wrote Critical Path back in the 70s. I think in 74 or 75, he wrote Critical Path pertaining to some of the fatal conveniences and biggest mistakes humanity was making. Aho. Yes. So what does it take to be patient enough to be 40 years ahead of your time.
Well,
I mean,
what
how do
happens,
you tell people these things and start doing this and showing this 4 decades ago, and it hasn't caught on like wildfire?
well, one of the things, that we have really mistaken in terms of progress is the velocity of culture. We just want to be faster and faster and faster, but biological process, they have a created velocity. You can't push the river, you can't push night and day.
But I can
So
set my clock forward and back and pretend.
See, all of those things, all of those, they have the velocity of biology. They have a velocity which is determined by creator.
Oh.
Now, if you try to push the river, then you have to use a pump and entropy.
That might
and
be
all that.
determined by Monsanto.
So what happens, we have to respect the velocity of biology. You have to respect the velocity of your body's function.
Oh.
If I try to push the heart beyond its boundary, we talked about boundary and border. Beyond its boundary, that's heart attack.
And so we take Earth beyond her border.
Beyond its velocity
Boundaries.
of procedure, the way it was created and determined by creator. Like we have 4 seasons. Here, maybe we come up with a formula to push the season.
Maybe we could create a couple more.
Couple more. Instead of 4, yeah, have 6.
But if I want to go skiing, I'm going to go to the mountaintop. If I want to be at the beach, I better go to the beach.
Yeah. So it's the velocity of creation. There was a reason the creator assigned and determined this velocity. Now, if I come and give
orchestrations of cosmological reality, who could do it even better?
Yeah. If I come and try to put fertilizers and all those chemicals to make things bigger, GMO and this, and then change the whole nature of things, change the process of the nature, I destroy myself.
And we're learning the hard way.
Yeah. But the thing, that's why, there's exigency. There's an exigency for change. This change is our soul with surrender, respect, and to the nature and creation, and creator wakes up.
Because the exigency is upon us.
Yeah.
Exigency. How do you say that again?
Exigency.
Exigency.
Yeah. Exiguous. That means instant, immediate necessity.
Needed immediately.
Yeah.
No time to dilly-dally around here.
No. No.
Can't sleep on our laurels. Can't take a
yeah.
long siesta, maybe shorter siestas.
Yeah.
Get back in the
The
garden.
thing is, the thing is, and that's why, just there's more as the time has gone up. Let's say over past 50 years, we've had more pandemic.
Oh.
The pandemic, as is our illnesses, is because of what? It's ill magnicity. Our magnicity is struggling. When it's therefore, entropy has gone up. Healing is centropy. Wellness is centropy, not entropy. But entropy can give us a lot of centralization.
Which is really a control tactic.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of a sudden,
if you control the market, you control the supply and demand, and you're self-serving your profit margin. Yeah.
There's a good book by Nicholas Georgisco, like 40, 50 years ago. Let me show it to you. It was written long time ago. This is one of my 10 most favorite books. Can you see it?
The entropy law and the economic process.
Yeah.
Wow, the entropy law and the economic process. That's one of your top 10.
The more I can have entropy in my hand, I'm an operator of entropy, the wealthier I become.
So that title again is the entropy law
And economic process. And
economic
this
process.
This guy, Nicholas Georgescu-Roegen, very intelligent man. He has investigated that it doesn't matter what kind of economy you have, whether if it's a communism or capitalism or socialism, if it's based, that economy is based on entropy, it produces a lot of what? Deficit, inflation, unemployment, at the same time, national debt. That national debt is entropical debt.
Oh, when was this book published?
Oh, I know I've had this for 30, 40 years. You know, this one, I don't have my glasses. This one, it was a long time ago, but I think it was in 80s, actually 70s, you know, but I have to get this one, third printing, this was third edition, 1976. So it's way below that, yeah.
The third edition in 1976.
Yeah, but at that time, nobody cared, you know, everybody wanted to come up with entropy and make more money.
Because the faster you create disorder, the more disorder you have to be responsible for cleaning up.
There is a correlation between entropy and centralization.
Entropy and centralization.
Yeah.
And centralization is a very narcissistic, self-centered process.
Well, the thing is, you know, if all the money is with me, all the power is with me, and the rest of you guys, you know, have nothing to do. And I don't even want you to think, because I give you a television, I tell you your vision, or I create artificial intelligence. You don't have to think, I'll do all your thinking.
Don't worry, I'll do all the thinking for you. Please be a zombie sheeple, people.
And those thoughts, you know, that comes from the machine, artificial, they're all entropical and oscillatory.
Oh.
There is no immutation or vibratory.
Because the computer has a silicon-based neural net. If our neural net is our neurological system, our system is biological.
Yeah.
It's not mechanical.
Yeah.
Because that's the biology is relative to civilization. Mechanical is relative to cultivation.
Exactly. I have to teach people how to do this and that, you know, in the mechanical system. But you notice the first thing, biology has vitality. Mechanical system, mechanic has no vitality. And this is, everybody can see it very easily.
Oh. So
do I want a food which has vitality, negative ion, like Kwando talked about it, you know, Patrick's teacher? Or I want something which has amphetamines in it?
Let's go with the negative ions.
Yeah. Negative ion, that means this molecule, this atom has a little extra energy. That's why you can buy I used to buy these things for my kids, or I have a few of them here in my library. If you look at the fresh line, you have 2 electrodes or 2 points, you know, you put in there, it makes the clock work. It has synergy. Or it makes a light bulb. Yeah, it has light bulb. But after a while, when it dies, the clock goes off and you kick the bucket.
Oh, no kicking the bucket allowed.
Then, you know, artificially and mechanically we are alive, not biologically.
So in sharing the things, the wisdom you've gained in your 40, 50 years of understanding this dilemma with the soil, where do you see the most important factors are for humanity, the key factors right now pertaining to the rejuvenation of our topsoil?
We have to heal the soil. And it may not take, in what I have known, it probably takes a couple of decades or maybe sometimes a generation, but we have to do it in order as a service to creator and creation.
For the sake of our grandchildren, our children, and our
yeah,
children's children.
Yeah.
So the biochar device that you have, you said that sold for $350.
Yeah.
And if people get
Let
in
me see.
touch with you, or you can give us some way of perhaps directing people how to buy that if they're interested.
I'm looking at the name of it. It's called, I can't read the name. It's called Servo something. Yeah. I have to see if I can find paperwork for it, and then I can maybe send it to you on your Skype.
Okay, but is it sold as a biochar producing device? Is that its purpose?
Yeah, it's a very small 1 pound production.
1 pound production. And if we get into the 1 ton production of biochar, would be what is the guesstimated cost of a system to produce biochar in that level?
Well, it's about, I would say, between $2 to $2.5 million. $2
to $2.5 million.
Yeah, but if again, in San Jose, I have seen a couple of gardening places that they knew about biochar. There are these bags about maybe 10 pounds. It was like, I think it was more like around $50.
Mm-hmm.
Because a friend of mine, I suggested he bought it, and we were producing Artemisia. Artemisia is a plant. If you notice, even Amazon is out of it. It's off
What
the
is
shelf.
this plant?
Because Artemisia is a plant that in Africa, when they don't have money to buy doctors or hospitals, and emergencies and all that stuff, they've been taking it, and they have, according to United Nations, that say they monitored in Madagascar, there has not been, or city, I forgot the name, in Ghana, there has not been a single case of COVID. And according to researchers,
the plant is again
Artemisia,
Artemisia.
Yeah, Artemisia, I think.
Artemisia.
Yeah, Artemisia annua, and I grow it here, and it grows very easily. I have it in my greenhouse, and I produce it on the land here. So, but they have it at Amazon, but now it's off the shelf because they found out, some people have found out about it. Thank God they did. Some of these people who found out about it, they have been buying it. That's why it's hard to find now.
Uh-huh.
And in Africa, as I said, in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and a few other countries, China, they have used it, and there has not been, according to UN, not even a single case of COVID.
So ARTEN. ISIA.
I have to look at my other book. I'm not much of a, I don't know how to type and spell. So,
but you're doing fine.
I think it's ARTE. Let me write it down.
ARTENESIA, Artemisia.
ARTEMISIA, I think. Artemisia annua, ANNUA. And the other one is the Nigelia sativa. Those two herbs have been, I take it, both of them a teaspoon a day. So to protect ourselves against any viral issue, whether cold, flu, or COVID, or anything else.
So we think Artenesia. And the last part of that word, Artemisia, what?
Annua, ANNUA.
ANNUA.
Yeah. Artemisia annua. The other one is Nigelia sativa. I think it's NEGILA, Nigella sativa, SATIVA.
SATIVA, okay. So we'll give our listeners some homework here.
Yeah. Well, again, that's why I'm saying, they have been in Africa. They haven't, since they don't have money, they have been taking it, and not a single case of two places that they monitored, Madagascar, and I forgot the other town.
You think of it someplace in Ghana?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, again, a beautiful information to share with people, and people do their own research, and we can continue this discussion as we move forward, and give thanks for you taking the time and putting all this time and effort into. Years and years ago, you were really focused on some very important issues for humanity.
Yeah,
and I'm glad
that's why
you're still here
yeah.
to share your experiences.
Back in '70s, when I wrote my thesis, it was solar architecture, because solar is diversified energy. Agriculture is we need for food, and architecture, a roof over our head, and it has to be healthy. So what happens, is that cannot be separated. If it's part of the unit of a home has its own food, its own energy, and has roof over their head. And they have assurance. Now, one other things here, this is called Hugel culture. It's another way of agriculture that all of a sudden it increases the roots of the plants, and also magneticity. This is using really rotten wood, when the wood rotten that you can crumble it, with your hand, the trunk. Then if you use that, underneath, which I use it in the garden, and then it keeps humidity, microorganisms love it, and plants, since they try to reach to this rotten wood, the roots goes much faster. So those are other ways of producing food in much more abundant, because when you do it normally, it's provision, but when you do it in surrender, submission, and service, it's blessing.
And we want to share the blessings.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, my brother. I want to thank you for sharing the blessings again with us.
Yes, yeah, we are welcome. Yeah.
And to be continued.
To be continued.
Well, that's it for Here and Now. But until we meet again, this has been Louis-Virie Blanche thanking you for listening to Conversations with Elders on Glastonbury Radio 432. Bless you.
Quantum physics in the kitchen sink, the energy that follows the thoughts you think. Quantum physics and the cosmic sea, laws of nature too heavy for me. It's too cosmic, much too cosmic for me. Much too